Tonight, as voter turnout falls to historic lows, President Obama, he floats an idea that would reverse the trend, but it's not without controversy. And in New York, Governor Andrew Cuomo, he's getting schooled by the teachers, if you believe the polls. We're going to tell you about the political lesson he's actually learning from educators. Then, of course, March Madness kicking off, and everyone getting their brackets filled up and handed in. So the question is, if millions and millions of people are betting, why are states like New Jersey still fighting to legalize sports gambling? Good evening, everyone, and welcome to RFL. I'm Richard French, and thank you so much for joining us. And tonight we will begin with President Obama and a throwaway line that has certainly generated a lot of discussion, if not controversy. It's his new push to get more people to the polls come Election Day.
We shouldn't be making it harder to vote. We should be making it easier to vote. In Australia and some other countries, there's mandatory voting. If everybody voted, then it would completely change the political map in this country.
Now, the president, he makes his push. His voter turnout here in the States has fallen to lows that we have not seen since World War II. Only 36% of eligible voters headed to the polls for November's midterm election. Now, many foreign countries, they don't have the same problem we do. And that's partially because they're doing everything from finding people who don't vote to automatically registering everyone when they're eligible to vote at all. And back in the States, maybe we're finally getting with the program. Listen to what Oregon's governor just did here. In fact, he signed the most comprehensive, sweeping automatic registration law that we have in the States. I want to bring in our panel right now to discuss this and a whole bunch of topics. Richard Brodsky, he a former Democratic New York State Assemblyman, now a senior fellow at Demos and professor at NYU. He's always short on opinion, so we'll see if we can drag him out of his shell. Dominic Carter, political journalist and author. Of course, Jessica Proud, Republican strategist and PR expert with the November team. She's also spokeswoman for Dan Donovan's congressional campaign in Staten Island. We'll be talking about that later as well. And Andrew Whitman, our senior political correspondent. Okay, so do we like the idea? First of all, we all agree that more than a third of the public should be voting in a midterm, and more than half of the country should be voting even in a presidential election. We're not even talking about primaries here. So if we all agree that we've got a problem, then the only debate is what's the solution. And Jessica, the idea of mandatory voting or putting a punishment attached if you don't vote. I've heard some say that's completely un-American, to others saying, you know what, let's get the electorate, let's get the citizenry engaged here. Other people are doing it. Should we consider it here?
Absolutely not. I think it's absurd to mandate people. This is like the Obama idea of big government. You're going to force people to vote. Look what just happened in Israel the other day with their elections. Over 72% turned out to vote. Maybe we would be far better if we had mandatory drafts and people actually knew what went into keeping us having the right to vote.
Whole nother debate here.
Yeah,
I'd love to get into that one, but
look,
yes.
You could line it up. It makes sense because in Israel that's what they do as well.
Andrew, maybe a fine is going too far, but should we incentivize people to vote more? We were talking in the meeting this morning. I heard ideas floated from a national holiday on Election Day, making it easier for people to get out to vote. Maybe part of what we can do is not make it as hard to vote here, as certain states and certain electeds are trying to do everything they can here to make it difficult for people to register, let alone to get out to vote.
Well, first of all, I think if we offered people a more effective government, I think people might be more incentivized to actually participate in it. So I think that would help. But I think you want to make it easier for people to vote. Maybe a national holiday, maybe voting on the weekend, maybe a 2-week time frame to cast your ballot. Things that would make it easier for people to vote, as opposed to the trend lately, which has been restricting voting and making it more difficult. Adding a fine or penalizing a negative consequence, I think, would only turn people off. Plus, people have the right to protest the system by not voting at all if they want to. So I think that another reason to oppose mandatory voting, but
although
there are other things that
argue,
we can
Andrew,
make it easier.
that you could vote for none of the above or whatever if you created a line, if people still didn't want it.
That's really going to a great length to hold your nose. Like, you have to go to the polling place, sign the thing, walk in, fill out the sheet with nothing, and then submit it. I mean, that's asking a lot of people.
You know, maybe I jumped this, Dom, and that is, do we want everyone to vote? Because some people are so disengaged. I saw a poll recently about the presidential candidates where they said 92% of the public knew of Hillary Clinton. who are those 8 other percent? Maybe we don't want them voting, canceling out one of our votes here, but is it our best interest that everybody votes?
I think from a historical point of view, we want everyone to exercise the right to vote. People have died for others to have the right to vote. I think, though, the problem here, Richard, and without my girl Jessica over here, my friend over here, not my girl, my friend over here, Jessica.
It's going to come back to bite you.
It's going to bite me.
That's all right. Start again.
Is it going to bite me
Start
hard?
again.
It's going to bite me hard?
Erase.
Okay.
All right, now
My
start
colleague
again.
Jessica. over here.
Right.
I was trying to say a term of
You knew he
endearment.
wasn't going to let that one go.
Right.
but
You know he was
got
going to
it.
let it go.
Yeah.
Jessica, anyway,
Yeah.
Republicans won the popular vote, I believe, one time since 1988, I believe. And so they're not going to encourage more people to turn out and vote. It's just not in their best interest. And so the best you're going to get, and this is what I keep telling you guys about our political system, when you have the corruption and the corruption.
I'm not
and
going to defend you anymore.
Okay, and everything else. People are not stupid. They're not going to turn out and vote. They know the system is broken and it doesn't work.
They do have a sense, Richard, of saying, what's the point? Where they throw up their arms, whether that's
I don't
fair
know
or
who they
not.
are. But I
you must have heard when you got to.
What I do want to say is I agree with the gentle lady from the extreme right wing.
Gentle.
Gentle, where you been?
He's setting you up to push off the cliff.
I didn't mean it. Yeah, okay.
I don't know what's going on this side of the table over here.
About this being a very bad idea, but the irony of the patriots of voter suppression, the ones putting tests back in and passing laws on IDs, stuff intended.
All right, you're going to like this, though, Richard.
Wait,
I'll make you King Richard now. And you get to change the landscape. Would it make
God
a
help
difference
us
to
all,
do it
by
on the
the way.
weekend?
Yes.
Would it
the
make
one,
it a difference?
The one thing you could do that you really couldn't complain about is to do it on the weekend. It'd have to be 2 days for respecting people's religious observances. But to do a Saturday, Sunday election would dramatically increase attendance.
Add early voting everywhere, too. I mean, when I lived in Texas, they had
they
early
go
voting
with-
for 2 weeks.
What vacuum are you living in? Those people
Oh, man.
Those people.
voting are
That's worse than-
intentionally making it harder to vote.
No, I understand that. I agree with you, but rather than divide us, Richard, I'm trying to come up with proactive solutions
Well,
that we
I'm
can
Sorry,
all agree
since
to.
when
Early
you
voting.
have to show
See,
your
now we're-
ID to get into a building? Since when is having to show your ID to prove that you're the person casting that ballot such a bad
Because
thing?
the
What is
democracy
wrong with
doesn't
that?
depend on my getting into a building, and the democracy depends on people being able to vote.
Why shouldn't it be authorized? A set thing where you're accountable, you are claiming
There's
you
no
are that
problem.
person.
There's no voter
what's the
fraud.
Issue? There's no voter fraud.
There's no
Seriously,
voter
Richard,
fraud.
There's no voter fraud? Are you seriously going to argue that there's
in-person
no
voter fraud, incidents of in-person voter fraud, which is the kind that you're referring to,
impossible
that
to
an ID
track.
would eliminate. There
I'm
have been
up-
there are such
I'm
a
up against the
smattering
time.
of
Something
them.
quick, though. What about online voting? I mean, is this
That's
right for
crazy.
abuse?
What is
Yes,
so
give me-
hard about
give me
asking
your PIN
people?
number.
When you have one party that hasn't won the popular vote in recent memory, they're never going to agree. We could talk about
Guys.
this till we're blue in the face. It's never going to happen.
We are playing on
Republicans
TV.
come
They're kinda
out and
coming for-
vote in bigger numbers consistently in
You have
every
1.7 million
election.
fewer
Look
Republicans
at New York
in the
City
House vote, and
mayor's
yet you
race.
control
Look at
it.
the New York City mayor's race. They had an abysmal turnout, and it was
That's
the
true.
Okay,
That's true.
so now we have consensus. And on that point here, I'm going to ask you the same question online. And here it is. In terms of voter turnout, what can be done to increase it? And I'm not just looking yes or no. Obviously, this is a question, or I'm looking for your ideas. Changing the date, maybe expanding it over a couple days, make it a holiday, whatever it is. Tell us your thoughts, and you can do that via Twitter or Facebook. Now, when we come back, Richard's favorite subject, Governor Andrew Cuomo. But we will talk about how he's losing to one particular group, and it's a pretty big beating here. Are people no longer falling for the tough guy routine anymore? You got more and more people, even though they're not willing to put the name to it, saying just that. We'll get into that after this.